3.2 miles of racing action.
This is why Red Bull keeps winning races. With just 6 races remaining on the calendar, one couldn't help but wonder, how did Red Bull manage to be so dominant this season? After all, the championship was close in the first couple of races, and we sincerely hoped that it will be a proper fight between at least Red Bull and Ferrari. Nevertheless, the Austrian team has produced a car that is just simply doing wonders for them, and with that being said, nothing is stopping them in the remainder of the calendar. But what is it in the RB18 that makes them just so powerful? Stick around with us to find out more. Max Verstappen has been on an absolute tear in the last 5 races, winning all of them and recording his 11th win of the season in Monza, the first one on this track for the Dutchman. On top of that, it's very evident that Verstappen is much faster than the rest of the competition, as he started P14, P10 and P7 in 3 races this season, and went on to win all of them in a dominant manner. There isn't anything stopping him, and the fact that Perez isn't able to do the same as Verstappen is proving that the driver factor does have some involvement in the RB18's performance. What's even more impressive is the fact that Red Bull managed to cut the difference to Ferrari in sectors that the Italian team was much faster at, such as low and medium speed corners. On top of that, Red Bull was already vastly dominating the straight line sectors with their immense speed, so now it seems like there isn't a part of the track that the RB18 doesn't enjoy. If we dive deeper into the Monza GP, we'll be able to notice just how fast Verstappen is. During the qualifying session, he finished P2 with just plus 0.145 behind Leclerc, but it's worth mentioning that Ferrari brought the low downforce rear wing and mapped their engines for better performance. Nevertheless, Verstappen took a new ice that would be his 5th and got a 5-second penalty, which saw him starting P7 in this race. However, he won the race without any issues, but how did he manage to be yet again so far ahead of the Ferrari? One point that we need to pick out straight away is the fact that Ferrari is faster when it comes to one-lap performance, such as on Saturdays. That is why Leclerc has won 8 out of the 16 pole positions, and Verstappen has just 4. However, Verstappen won 5 fastest laps in the race compared to Leclerc's 3, which all came in the first 3 races of the season. Therefore, it's worth concluding that Ferrari is fast when it has brand new tyres only, such as in qualifying sessions, and their race pace is seemingly lacking off on Sunday. Another very interesting factor to look at Red Bull is the tyre degradation. In Austria, they suffered from this problem vividly, but after that it seems like they found the perfect solution for this matter. What's even more compelling to look at is Verstappen's lap times in Monza when he was P3, chasing for Leclerc and the overtake on him. Although Leclerc was expected to have the fastest laps of the race, as he pulled out of DRS range of Russell, it became evident that Verstappen is the one who'll control the pace of the race with his lap times. One of the reasons why is because of the downforce nature of the track. Tracks that have less downforce tend to be gentler on the tyres, since there is less tyre slipping, which is one of the main factors why a tyre is degrading. On top of that, there are multiple factors such as braking points, overheating and suspension settings, but they are very technical ones and we wouldn't want to bore you with them. All you have to know is that all of these factors are vividly going in Red Bull's favour, as the Austrian team hasn't suffered from tyre degradation too early in the race since their home GP in Austria. To prove our points, let's see how both drivers performed during the first and the second stint in the Monza GP. Leclerc was the one who pitted first, and when doing so, he mounted a fresh set of medium tyres on lap 12. It's worth mentioning that Verstappen was already on an old set of fresh tyres ahead of Leclerc, and he was naturally slower than Leclerc, but not as much as you'd expect it to. With Leclerc not being able to catch up with Verstappen as fast as he would have hoped for, the race was literally over when Verstappen went into the pit stop and changed to medium tyres. Red Bull is amazingly fast because of the tyre degradation process, among other things. Verstappen changed the soft compound tyre on lap 26, while Leclerc did it on lap 12, which is twice the amount of laps that Verstappen was able to complete on the same compound of tyre. On top of that, Verstappen's lap times on medium tyres were much better compared to the ones of Leclerc, so it is evident that the Dutchman is just in a league of his own. In tracks like Monza, if your car produces much downforce, more precisely, if your car is able to extract more downforce out of its tyres, it's usually a bad thing. Well, apparently not if you're a Red Bull driver. This is where the aerodynamic efficiency comes into play, and this is where Red Bull has been a force to be reckoned with compared to the F175 of their main competitors. And apart from the tyre degradation, Red Bull has managed to extract all that speed and performance due to the choice of the rear wing. Monza is a track that is very sensitive to lap times, especially when it comes to straight line factors. This is why the rear wing choice is a very important one to be made, and we've seen a difference between the wings of the first top 3 performing teams, which is something that Red Bull has profited off without any bigger issues. However, there is a difference when it comes to the drag being applied to the cars, and it's evident that Red Bull has suffered the least with the drag issues. Compared to them, Mercedes is a team that suffered a lot with this issue, as Hamilton explained the W13 as a car that has a parachute attached to the back of it in Spa. One of the reasons why drag is so evident and is causing so many problems to the F1 cars is the choice of a rear wing, something that Red Bull has clearly perfected and isn't suffering at all from it. It's very important that the cars can make the perfect balance between drag and downforce, because both of them are closely related. The more downforce the car produces, the more drag follows with it. This is where aerodynamics comes into play, as the cars that have much better aerodynamic structure tend to produce less extra drag for each increment of extra downforce. Sounds a bit complicated when you put it like this, so we'll try to simplify it for you. Red Bull has produced a car with such a good aerodynamic structure that it enables them to create more downforce while suffering from less drag on the track. As we mentioned earlier in this video, one of the reasons why this is happening is because of the rear wing choice. Red Bull has optimally chosen to reduce the downforce levels by running with just one beam wing element compared to the previous races. The team did a trial with a drag-reducing option, with Perez being tested with the same wing, and the solution was quickly discarded as the DRS oscillation issues dogged the squad throughout the back end of 2021. The extra downforce that the car was able to produce was mostly thanks to the rear wing choice, as it seemed that it wouldn't be a penalty-applying one for Red Bull, given the fact that there was a trailing edge of the upper flap trimmed back in Perez's car. Ultimately, the car ran with more wings, and it helped protect the tyres and extend its first stint. On top of that, it enabled a larger DRS delta when the RB18 was supposed to pass other cars, and the benefits were also gathered in the qualifying session. With that being said, it's more than evident that Red Bull are in a league of its own. Verstappen is currently dominating the championship in every single aspect, and there isn't a thing that he'd like to do differently.
Max Verstappen, for the first time ever, is champion of the world!
What do you think is next for Red Bull and Ferrari? Do you think that the Italian team should already look into 2023 as the year when they'll start to harvest some results? Let us know in the comments below.